LA Kings fans share their feelings and frustrations on another disappointing end of the season. That's next on this fan feedback edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years, also co-host of Locked On NHL Game Night, a daily podcast and YouTube show that wraps up the night in the NHL, and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. Today's episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into an Xbox, no console required. Head to amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. It is time for another Kings fan feedback show. We had about 25 emails this week. Some of them were multiple emails, which I've had to combine into one email. And this show will be reading the emails reacting to games 3, 4, 5, and 6. We all know how those games went. So, yeah, we will have a lot of frustrated and angry Kings fans. This is your place to vent, and I'm fine with that. I certainly understand it because I feel the same way as well. I did have to do some pretty significant editing on some of the longer ones and, of course, combining some multiple emails into one email. So, just trying to get as many emails as we can as possible. And my answers will be a little bit shorter than normal. But let's get right into it. And we will start with Andy in Guelph, Ontario, who sent 3 emails in as the week went along. The first email says, "Why challenge? 642 away. I loved Hiller all year. I can't understand this. Let's hope to get them in game 4. The next email was a Fiala post away from being 4-2. Then Q with a fumble. How did he not get it out? I'm on the East Coast, so it's 1:30 a.m. We should have swept these guys. And now I hate to say it, but I can't stay up for this. They've taken too much of my sleep in the last 48 hours. And his final email was, I'm sad that QB turnover in game 4 will haunt me all summer. Despite that, he's going to be a great player for us. Time to shake things up and go after Marner if he makes it to July 1st. I'd be moving to no to clear extra cap space. We'll have a 2025-26 season where we need to commit to the development of Clark, Turcotte, Hellenius, and maybe even Greentree. I accept a non-playoff season to come back even stronger. Sorry, Kopi and Drew, your era is over. Let's go forward. Eddie, you're the man. Congrats on a wonderful season and giving us fans a platform to vent, cheer, and come together." And that was Andy in Guelph. About that Byfield non-clear, I actually failed to mention it when I recapped that show. I think I was more focused on the fact that I felt like it never should have come to that, although that was an omission on my part to not mention that play. I wonder if the Kings missing so many empty nets played into a factor that Q thought, I'm not going to try and shoot an empty net. I'm going to skate it out, try and get more time off the clock. The Kings had missed like 4 or 5 empty nets at that point. But he had I went back and watched it again. He had so much time and space to not only clear the zone, but to shoot at an empty net. Andy, I'm sure like you, Q is going to be thinking about that play for a while. Hopefully it fuels him to work harder and be better when he gets in that opportunity again. Scott in Simi Valley checking in. He said, I just about had a heart attack watching the Game 3 loss. Jim Hiller just made the worst coaching challenge ever. I'm still a Hiller fan, but let's hope this isn't a revisit of the curse of Marty McSorley. What an absolute brainless screw-up. Hiller has done well before this blunder, though, and hopefully will the rest of the series. Why were the Kings sitting on a 1-goal lead with 20 minutes left? This is plain and simple the dumbest way to play against any team, especially against Edmonton, who have probably the best 2 players in the world. This one's on the whole team. What a losing strategy. Why not keep pushing? You can't sugarcoat it. If you don't go for it, you deserve to lose. I guaranteed the Kings would win this series a week ago. I'm sticking to it. I'm not so much that it's not so much they lost game 3, but how the Kings were skating tonight, but went comatose in the third, and that especially goes for the coaches. Thanks, Eddie. Had to vent. And that was Scott in Simi Valley. Well, Scott, if you had to vent after game 3, I can only imagine how you felt after game 4 and probably game 5. We didn't hear from Scott again, so I'm guessing he was so upset he just couldn't put it into words or didn't feel like it. But we're obviously going to get a lot more into Jim Hiller and his season, and specifically how he used the lineup, the coaching challenge, all that kind of stuff coming up in our next show. But again, Scott, and for everyone else, glad this show is a place for you to vent. And there's going to be more venting coming up. Bill in La Habra, he says, formerly parts unknown. He says, Locked On Kings was an important thing for me for as a catharsis after losses. I need catharsis now. The Kane goal was absolutely wrong. The call on the ice was no goal. Thus, there must be convincing video evidence that Kane's stick propelled the puck into the net. There was none. There was no video that showed his stick striking the puck and propelling it into the net. None. And Lundqvist's statement on TNT that the velocity of the puck changed is just not true, or at a minimum, not that obvious. And the only evidence of contact we saw from Kane was his distinct kicking motion. Having said that, the challenge from Hiller thereafter was just dumb, but the goal should have been disallowed from the beginning. Eddie, I've always appreciated you for your objectivity. I believe the Kings objectively got screwed. I'm happy to hear any other point of view as long as it's from a lifelong Kings fan. Thanks as always. I feel better now. Kings in 5. And that was Bill in La Habra. Do you remember that internet thing where there was a picture of a dress and some people swore it was blue and other people swore it was like yellow, I think? That's how I feel about that Kane goal, because a lot of people have messaged me, even Kings fans, to tell me that they saw Kane hit the puck after he kicked it. And I've had other messages saying that they never saw it. And I've watched it over and over again, and I still have not seen it. But I'll just repeat what I said at the time, hasn't changed. To overturn a call on the ice, you have to have clear, definitive video evidence. I never saw it, and I will go to my grave at this point saying that I never saw him touch the puck. Now, he may have done it, but there has to be evidence that he did, and I didn't see it to overturn the call on the ice. So I agree with that. Frank in Ranchos Palos Verdes says, great recap of Game 4 by you. However, I'm going to take issue with you as the Kings being the better team. The better team doesn't blow through 3 third-period leads. The better team has a coach that's not making poor decisions, like playing Lewis several shifts while a key component of your offense, Kuzmenko, is riding the bench. Hiller obviously hasn't figured out that time spent in the opponent's end means you're likely not going to get goals allowed against you. With his poor decisions in the playoffs, the Kings should really consider another option regardless of the final outcome of the series. They are realistically a flutter goal by Danault away from being down 3-1. I hope they can hang on because, in my opinion, Edmonton's coaches, players, and all are the better team. Would not be saying how great the Kings are if the situation was reversed. Go Kings, go. That was Frank in RPV. It's a fair point. I said it after Game 5. When I watch the games, I'm focusing mostly on the Kings. So, like a lot of you are, probably I'm more likely to criticize what the Kings do than give the Oilers credit for what they're doing. That's just being a fan of one team while watching the game. Maybe that's a criticism of me being a fan and watching these games. I think it's very fair to say after watching the series that the Oilers were the better team, but not going into the series. I mean, I think there were some very key, it wasn't just me hoping, there were some key reasons why it appeared to me that the Kings were the better team going into it. And you could certainly argue some coaches' decisions, some things here and there, and the Kings, the results are different, but they weren't. So for anyone who says the Oilers were the better team all along, the results say that you're right. Mike Benifer from Parts Unknown, or Benfer, excuse me, says, I've been watching your YouTube shows for a while, and you remind me of John Rosen when he wrote the LA Kings Insider pieces. Very balanced and knowledgeable. Well, thank you, Mike. He says, like you, I've been a fan for over 30 years too. I can relate to times when things were great and not so much. With the passive defense-only play we've seen the last couple of third periods resulting in losses, how much do you think that's Coach Hiller's call as opposed to players' decisions? Anyway, this is just a behind-the-scenes thought since everybody's calling for Hiller's head lately due to the blown challenge decision and the poor third period play lately. And this is a team, not a one-man show. And that was from Mike in Parts Unknown. Mike, it's the question that I don't really have an answer to. Was it Jim Hiller specifically telling the players to back off, play defense first, don't worry about scoring, which led to the losses in games 3 and 4? I have to believe it was, because players don't stop doing what they're doing when it's working in a game. Like, players don't make that decision unless they're told to change something. And if it was a player's decision, if the players suddenly changed strategy, don't you think the coaches would be yelling at them to stop doing that and being on them? I didn't see that. So I gotta believe it was a coach's decision to change strategy. It's the only explanation I have for that, really. Anthony and Ventura says, watching the series, I felt like the Kings were really missing Geno's physical play. Do you think he could have impacted the series? I do agree that they could have used Geno. He was their leading hitter during the season, typically led the team in hits, and there was a physical element that the Kings could have needed more of. That having been said, it's not like Tanner Geno is a series changing type of a player. Sure, he could have helped, but it also makes you realize he was the only health issue for the Kings. They were outrageously healthy going into the playoffs, which a lot of teams did not have that luxury, and still they could not use that, unfortunately, to their advantage. A lot more emails to get to. We're flying through it. We will get to them next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices, no console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 to Avowed. It's as easy as streaming your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With 4K streaming, watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controllers required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cubed 3rd Gen. Sasan in Westwood had 3 emails that we've combined into one. His first one said, I'm writing to you after that heartbreaking loss in Game 4. I'm not going to lie. I'm absolutely devastated. I thought for sure we would at least get a split in Edmonton. Instead, the Kings let both games 3 and 4 slip away after carrying the lead into the third periods. How the bleep does this keep happening? That's the third lead they've blown in the third period in the series alone. Listening to Hiller's response in the post-game presser left me feeling frustrated. I'm not feeling confident in their chances to take the series anymore. His second email said, I'm writing the day after the Kings lost Game 5 on home ice. I was at the game sitting in section 306. I just feel dejected right now. I thought for sure the Kings would be ready to strike back, especially considering the brutal losses in Edmonton. We in the crowd were trying to will the team, but they just looked flat all game long. From the beginning, it felt like the Oilers came out with the speed, urgency, and fight that the Kings needed to have. Kemper did an outstanding job. It's a shame that he took the loss in this game. I'm angry and disappointed in the team. I hate to say it, Eddie, but I've lost faith in the Kings' ability to win games in this series. And his final email was, well, it's officially happened. The Kings have been eliminated 4 years in a row by the Oilers. This has to be an all-time low in terms of playoff utility. This season was an abject failure. This edition of the Kings was the strongest they've had in years going into the playoffs. They had a Vezina caliber season from Kemper. They got offensive boosts that they desperately needed on the power play from Kuzmenko. They had home ice advantage. They had a deeper roster. In addition to this, was the most vulnerable the Oilers had looked. But none of it mattered. Where the hell did the Kings go from here? I feel numb. I have no more words. Go Kings, go. And that was Sasan in Westwood. Not much to add to that, except I think you perfectly said a lot of what we all felt during the series. As for where do the Kings go from here, we'll be covering that a lot over the next days and weeks. We had 3 emails from Brian in Tampa. The first one said, the lesson from Game 4 loss was obvious. We cannot just play back with the lead against Edmonton in the third period. We also can't expect to get any calls or get any fair reviews from Toronto. We can win the series by only winning the home games. His next email said, I agree with you, Eddie. That Game 5 loss was really heartbreaking. I never expected us to be so flat on home ice. Our breakouts were pathetic. We weren't skating the puck out of the defensive zone. The defense is under too much pressure and it's just flinging the puck into the neutral zone where it's either stolen by Edmonton or dumped into by the Oilers with no support. I felt like Jim Hiller had no answers. This was really hard to watch. And his final email said, thanks for another great season of covering the Kings. This season ended so soon. It's soul-crushing. But I will remain an everydayer of your show and a lifelong Kings fan. Real fans stick with their teams even through the hard times. All we can do is hope for a better future. Go Kings, go. And that was Brian in Tampa. I will say this, as a Kings fan from the 90s, There were a lot of tough times, and I really, really, truly wondered if this team would ever win a Stanley Cup. So going through the tough times, it makes it that much sweeter if and when your team finally does win. My wife is a longtime Chargers fan, lifelong Chargers fan. She's been through so many tough times. If they ever are able to win it, it's going to feel so amazing for fans like her. So I appreciate you guys that are diehard Kings fans that are still saying, you're sticking with the team through good and bad. Obviously, it's tough right now, but for you newer fans that didn't get to experience the Cup wins, again, it's hard, but stick with it. And I hope that in the near future, you can experience what we as Kings fans who were through the Cup years got to experience. It really is so much sweeter when you've gone through the tough times and you're able to see your team get to the mountaintop. Danny in Toronto sent a couple of emails. The first one said, I'm listening to the pod this morning and I'm ticked off. Hiller is letting this series slip away. Bad decision in game 3. He's playing 8 forwards and 4D. The team's gassed. Oilers only play good 2 periods, and yet the series is tied. We're not playing to our identity in the playoffs, and Hiller is to blame. Frustrated. His next email says, this will be my last email for a while. I need to take a break from Kings hockey. I am significantly more disappointed with this team's playoffs than ever. Bad coaching in game 3, a clear giveaway in game 4, lousy team performance in game 5, and getting beat by the Oilers' depth in game 6 is all I can handle. Our depth was supposed to be a part of us winning. It was a spectacular year, but it means nothing because of how they lost in the playoff series. Waiting too long for our 9 forwards and 4D approach. After game 3, the Oilers coach stuck with 4 lines and it paid off. We got beat by depth in the end. I love my Kings, but I need to take a break for a few weeks. Talk to you soon. And that was Danny in Toronto. I get that you need a break. We'll be here for you, Danny, when you decide to come back. And all those episodes that you miss while you're taking a break, they're there for you to check out if you want to go back and listen. David in Vegas checking in. He says, Eddie, I was so pissed off after the Games blew game 4. I stopped listening to all hockey, no TV, no radio, no podcast. I didn't want to hear the talking heads all saying that Edmonton's a better team and that they will take the series in 6. We lost because Hiller is playing a prevent defense as soon as he feels that the Kings have a comfortable lead. If the Kings choke away the series, then we need to have a turnover in leadership. I hate to say it, but a Joel Quenneville hire would be a better playoff choice than Hiller at the moment. And that was from David in Vegas. David, I get it. I felt the need to get away myself after the losses in game 4 and 5. Only problem is I have to do this show. So that was not a luxury I had. But in fairness, they are paying me to do it. So Oliver in Roy, Utah says, would like to get my 2 cents in before game 6. Let's be honest, when the season started, most of us thought of the Kings as a borderline playoff team with not much of a ceiling. It is disappointing that they played so well all season, good enough to get home ice in the first round, only to wet the bed after being 28 seconds and 1 puck clear away from going up 3-1 and coming home. It's, of course, all the more painful losing to the Oilers for a 4th straight year, but the Kings are going to finish pretty much where most of us thought they would, another first-round exit. I know a lot of blame will be aimed at Hiller, and he deserves his fair share of criticism. I'm not that mad at the challenge that seemed to turn game 3. His decision to not play his full roster to keep guys a little fresher for a long series, I think, has been his biggest mistake. Let's not forget some of the moves he made throughout the season, including his power play adjustment going to 5 forwards. If Byfield clears that puck, no one's bringing out the torches and pitchforks for Hiller. I have no faith they can pull out game 6 or a game 7. Not even worth thinking about. Looking forward to next year and seeing what the future holds. Go Kings, go. And that was Oliver in Utah. I have to say, I was watching game 6. I was pretty down. I didn't have a ton of confidence they were going to win. I did celebrate the goals. And, but in the end, it was what I thought it was going to be. Had they won game 6, I think I would have been rejuvenated for that game 7, but unfortunately, we'll never know. Eric in Wrightwood says, it's hard to be upset at a coach that had a 105-point season, but here I go. The games 3, 4, 5, and 6 collapse of the team is completely on Jim Hiller. All of his fans, casual observers, and reporters witnessed it with our own eyes, yet we were told to pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. His idiotic decisions to challenge that call, refusal to play a 4th line that helped the team get 105 points, lack of urgency in third periods, rookie coach, I get it. However, the worst part was seeing Hiller's character on display in the press conferences. I believe it was President Kennedy who said, victory has 1,000 offers and defeat is an orphan. Hiller would learn a lot more respect if he would just own what happened, but instead chalks it up to, that's just hockey. No, Jim, that's bad coaching. As a player, I would not want to play for a coach that doesn't lay it all on the line with you. Kings need a reset, meaning Hiller and Blake need to go. And again, that was from Eric in Wrightwood. And again, we're going to get a lot more into Jim Hiller and his coaching decisions and the good and the bad and the ugly coming up on our next show. All right, we got more emails to get to. We're getting them in. That's next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. There is nothing like the energy of a live game, whether it's catching a last-minute NHL showdown or soaking in the excitement of an NBA matchup. But finding great seats at a great price, that used to be a challenge until I found Gametime. Gametime makes scoring last-minute tickets easier than ever. Prices actually drop as the event gets closer, and with their all-in pricing, you see the total cost up front. There are no surprises at checkout. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concert, comedy, and theater events. And with the seat view before you buy, no surprise fees, and lowest price guaranteed, you can book with total confidence. Their lowest price guarantee means I never worry about overpaying. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Brian in Los Alamitos checks in. He says, what a difference a week makes. A part of me doesn't blame the team for their lackluster play in Game 5. I would feel completely deflated and disillusioned if our coach was essentially pulling the rug out from under us by going back to the very strategy that has failed to work the past 3 playoff years. I don't know if it's Blake's ego or Hiller's stubbornness, but their refusal to push offense is baffling. I suppose by doing so, it's like admitting their defense-first approach has been wrong all along. What's crazier is that I don't think things will change. I think ownership's completely satisfied with Luke and Rob, just as long as the team is making the playoffs and earning a profit. This will be the norm for seasons to come. Thanks for another great week of shows, Brian in Los Alamitos. Well, I will say I can't go with you there, Brian, on the Game 5 performance. You're back on home ice. The building was once again rocking. Just win your home games and win the series. So the Game 5, saying that the losses in Game 3 and 4 meant that you couldn't blame them for Game 5. I'm still blaming them for Game 5. As for your comment on how ownership feels about this latest playoff failure, again, we'll get into it a lot more in the coming days and weeks, but I tend to agree with you on this one. I think ownership sees the team making the playoffs, they're making money, and in the end, I think that's probably where their motivations lie. Rob in Westchester says, I had to wait and take a little time before I could put my thoughts down for you. I have to be honest, after the loss in Game 4, I fully expected this outcome. It seems like the momentum had truly shifted in favor of the Oilers, and our team looked like it was expecting to lose. Game 5 was shamefully played on home ice, with a team that looked like they were expecting to lose. Game 6 had promise, but they forgot to play defense at all, which ironically was the exact opposite problem they had in Games 3 and 4, where they forgot to play offense for half the game. I've never been a blow it up the team guy, and I'm not going to start now, but I'm so frustrated with this year's outcome. The team needs to look at themselves in the mirror as an organization and decide what they need to change. I think its time has truly come for some management changes and maybe even a coaching change, as impressed as I was with Hiller with this team during the year. This is a really good team, the best we've had in years, in my opinion. Something needs to break the mindset that they cannot beat the Oilers. Thanks for your continuing work on our behalf of your fellow Kings fans. And for now, at least, go Canes go, or anyone but Edmonton or Vegas. And that was Rob in Westchester. Definitely going to have thoughts on where the Kings go from here soon. I will say, and I don't say this easily, go Golden Knights, at least for round number 2. Everyday RJ in Long Beach checks in. He says, I wish I could say the Kings collapse against Edmonton in the playoffs was shocking, but unfortunately, it's the same movie we've watched last year and the year before. Kings jump out to an early lead in the series, only to fall apart under the pressure. On one hand, there's no one to really blame here. Edmonton is just a better team than the Kings. They've proven it. They have 2 of the best players in the league, and while I like the Kings lineup, we have no one who can put the team on their backs the way a McDavid and Draisaitl can. Even when those 2 are held in check, the attention given to them frees up the other players in the lineup to some degree. On the other hand, after starting the series 2-0, the Kings needed to get one in Edmonton, give their best effort in Game 5, but they did neither of those things. Once you give Edmonton momentum, they're hard to beat. I'll save comments about GM Rob Blake for another time, but I do want to say that despite Hiller's challenge in Game 3, I thought he did a fine job as Kings head coach this season. I do think the Kings will need to bring in an assistant who can help improve the power play. And that was Everyday RJ in Long Beach. Again, we will get into what the Kings need to do this offseason coming up, but I think from an on-ice perspective, I agree. I think the Kings need to get an elite forward. And look, we do have some really good players. I think Adrian Kempe is just a level below that. But look, if we're going to beat the Oilers, they've got elite players, and we have to match them with elite players of our own. Gary in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho says, I needed an evening and a morning to process this latest Kings playoff ouster. Here's my takeaway. The biggest thing in my mind was the coaching staff not trusting the young guys. Spence, Clark, Turcotte, Hellenius, Malott. I think the large, tough minutes burned out our forwards and decor. I like Hiller. I think he did a great job this season. I just hope the staff realizes you need to roll 4 lines and 60 in the playoffs, not 4D and 8 or 9 forwards. I'm not in the fire Hiller train. I hope he learns from his mistakes, including the really bad goalie interference challenge. I can't stand Nurse, Kane, and Perry, but they were effective against the Kings in the series. The Kings need a couple of criminals on their roster to compete. Byfield will continue to grow. Turcotte, Hellenius, etc. Kopi needs to be a third center next season. Time to move on from Lewis and let him retire. Doughty needs to have his ice time reduced. Would like to extend Kuzmenko, maybe 2 years, $10 million. Thank you for all your insights this season. Go Kings, go. And that was Gary in Coeur d'Alene. It is worth pointing out the Kings were one of the youngest teams in the playoffs this season. I think I heard they were like the 4th youngest team. So there is obviously, this isn't an old team on its last legs. And I agree, Gary, about Hiller not using his lineup. I think the ice time distribution was a pretty big issue. Adam in Ottawa, he says, lifelong Kings fan since 1988. I get to share in the sadness today at school as I work with a bunch of unhappy Sens fans. I find the frustrating part about this loss is that I don't know where we go from here. You don't blow it up because it's a young core. Kopitar and Doughty are both almost done, so nothing dramatic needs to be done there. We can add pieces, but it felt like we added all the right pieces this year, and here we go again. As for the GM and the coach, I go back and forth on Blake. I had to admit this year he fixed a lot of the mistakes, and I do like a GM that takes wild swings every once in a while, like with PLD. When it comes to Hiller, there was some obvious mistakes, but also some great progress, great total effort, and he must have something to do with turning Fiala into a beast of a player. Fiala does get credit, of course, too. I feel like it was done with Fiala this year. The turnovers, the selfish play, the retaliations, but I feel like his turnaround culminated last night. Watching him hit Kane, back-checking like crazy and creating offensive chances, there's got to be some great coaching there. So basically, it sucks we lost, and I don't know where we go from here. That was Adam in Ottawa. Misery loves company, Adam, so at least you've got some unhappy Sens fans to hang out with. Again, going to share my thoughts on where the Kings go from here going in a couple of future episodes, but blowing it up is definitely not an option to me. Justin in Atwater Village says, condolences and apologies in advance to you and the rest of the Kings Nation that will disagree with me, but I'm requesting a new Kings captain. Leave Kopitar as an assistant, but we need a new captain. My suggestions are Doughty, Deneau, or even Quentin Byfield. I'm still bitter that Dustin Brown got a raw deal when they removed the captaincy from him and gave it to Kopitar. Kopitar hasn't been able to lead the team past the first round of the playoffs. Since Kopitar's been captain, we've had 2 different GMs and 4 coaches and many player changes. The only constant is the captain, and we still can't make it past the first round of the playoffs. I felt the Kings this year had Stanley Cup caliber aspirations, but instead another first round exit. Very disappointed Kings fan, and that was Justin in Atwater Village. I will say I, too, was very disappointed in that decision many years ago to take the C from Dustin Brown. I'm wearing a Dustin Brown jersey right now with a C on it. I still don't know why that happened. I don't think it was the right move. Kopi would have been the captain eventually after Brown retired, but that's not a shot at Kopitar. I don't lay any blame on Kopitar for not being a good captain. I think he's a fine captain. He's a leader. He's well respected. He's the perfect example of what you want your players to be. So I don't think the results are any different than they would be, say, if Drew Doughty had been the captain of the team. So I would disagree with that, and I think Justin, you saw that coming. And finally, Ed and Brea sent 7 emails in. It was a lot of I told you so and I was right, which, let's be honest, is in a sick way kind of funny. But he did mention something I wanted to share. This is from Ed and Brea. The Korean harmonica ladies. I am grateful to the LA Kings for this. As a fellow Korean American, seeing this was very special to me, my heritage being showcased. I am like other Kings fans. I was very happy about this. And if you wanted to know what the ladies wore for game 1, it was a traditional dress called a hanbok. My mother, aunt, grandmother, sister, cousins, and friends wore them for formal events. Thank you, LA Kings, for this. And that was from Ed and Brea. And when I think back on this postseason, I will say the one thing that will make me smile is the harmonica ladies. So that was one special thing. And the singing of the anthems, which, doesn't happen a lot at Kings games. I thought that was, and frankly, the Kings fans, the way you guys balled out in the playoffs. I was so impressed and proud of you guys. The way, if you went to the games, the way you cheered, you guys were awesome. You were absolutely awesome. You guys brought it. And I mean that sincerely. And Ed, I will say to you, even though your guarantees and your negativity sometimes frustrate me, I appreciate how you have become kind of a fun part of the show. And we'll see you out at the Charger games this season for more anguish probably coming up. God bless Ed, a Kings and Chargers fan. Thank you to everyone who took the time to email. And I hope this was a place for you guys to let off a little steam and just express yourself. And maybe it helped in some small way. But these fan feedback shows are literally not possible without your participation. So thank you all for the emails this week. And the fan feedback shows continue throughout the off season as well. For you everydayers, those of you that listen and watch Locked On LA Kings every day, coming up on our next show, we're going to be looking at an eventful first season for Kings head coach Jim Hiller, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and what his future might be. That's coming up. If you want to get an email in for our next feedback show, the email address is lockedoneddie@gmail.com. You can always leave your comments if you're watching on YouTube in the comment section. And we'd love you to stay interactive with the show on social media, X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We're at Locked On LA Kings. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you as always for listening and watching to this episode of Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your weekend. We will talk to you next time. And as always, go Kings, go.